6:30, we'll call Sawyer County Public Works meeting to order. Ask the clerk to call roll, please.
Ron Kinsley,
Sure.
Mark Elwig. Mark is online.
He was, but he dropped off for some reason.
Okay, we will wait to see him come in. Ed Peters.
Here.
Al Olson.
Here.
Brian Bissonette.
Here.
Thank you. Let the record indicate we have a quorum. 3 virtual, 2 here. Also, we have the county board chair here. Number 3, certification compliance open meeting laws.
The meeting has been noticed to the public and news media as required by section 19.84 of the Wisconsin statutes.
Thank you. Number 4 is the meeting agenda. We're going to swap things up a little bit. We're going to make number 9 and number 11 follow number 6, if that's acceptable to the committee.
Would you repeat that? Just
Yeah.
one second.
Number 9 and number 11 follow number 6.
Thank you.
Would the highway commissioner ever do it again?
He does a good job. So if it's acceptable to the committee, I need a motion to approve that, please.
So, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Olson.
I'll second that.
Peters?
Yep, Mr. Peters.
Motion by Mr. Olson, second by Mr. Peters to approve changes on the agenda. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Number 5, public comment.
And Mr. Helwig is back in.
Welcome, Mr. Helwig.
Hello.
Either you two have anything that you want to communicate about?
Oh, we're just here to listen.
Okay, thank you. Number 6, minutes of the March 9th meeting. Does anybody see anything that needs to be corrected? If not, entertain a motion to approve.
So, Mr. Chairman.
Scroll.
I'll second. Ed Peters, second.
Thank you. Motion by Mr. Olson, second by Mr. Peters to approve as presented. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Number 9, maintenance report. Mr. Hager.
Questions on my report at all?
Tell us about your report.
I'll leave off Oasis and get that on down the road if you want. Otherwise, we're pretty much on schedule on, we've been working on trying to get SWAT garage relocated and, first, in order to get them relocated in the maintenance building, we have to get zoning, surveying, and forestry moved over into what used to be the mechanics portion of the garage. So we made really good progress on that so far. So I think, we're pretty much on schedule. Just wanted to, won't be a news flash, just kind of keep committee aware of where we're at as far as our 2022 fleet purchases so far. Got a couple vehicles come in that were kind of a surprise to the dealership that they actually made it in the time they did. And I was talking to them this week. So Sheriff's Department's curious, forestry, everybody's kind of wanting to know where their vehicles are at. And, right now they're hoping that we see vehicles by, potentially sometime this summer. Otherwise, we could be pushing in the fall. Or I was talking to Mike a little bit. A couple of vehicles might not make it here this year. So that we have on the docket. So looks like everything else, you just have those supply chain issues. So that's about
Ms. Rolls.
Tim, how are you doing that? You're putting 10 pounds of stuff in a 5-pound box, putting forestries lock up, conservation's lock up, and all that stuff on your side.
Yeah, kind of what we've done is we had to get emergency lighting and egress lighting put into both sides of the building. And so we have Crier Electric, we're working with him on that. And then kind of up in front of the bays,
Did you get rid of that other hoist?
we got rid of the blue hoist.
You got rid of
The
the
four posts. We still have the 2 posts yet, but then everything in front of we auctioned off the oil tanks and hose reels. So we cleaned out that whole front area, and so all the storage rooms are now built across that front.
So when
So
the
the back
county,
of the
when the
building.
county changes its mind and we go back to having our own mechanic, then we gotta buy all that stuff again?
Well, that was, we do still have the 2 posts, but I was kind of informed that, yeah, we won't be going back to the mechanic, so but we do still have the 2 posts, just in case.
Awesome.
Any other questions for Mr. Hagberg? If you would want to put number 11, please.
You want to take it?
That the easement you're talking about?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, sure. So we received an easement request from XL Energy as part of this courtroom addition project and relocating utilities. I guess on that corner, they want to add some guy wires. They need easements to do that. So that's what it is.
Any questions from the committee?
Well, we don't have to do that. They can put in a bigger post that's self-standing that we don't need guy wires for. If you think that's gonna be an issue.
What's the maintenance gonna be, drive around with it going on, we don't think guide wires there.
I forgot that part, so I'm fully in support. So I would make a motion to approve.
Second it.
There's a motion by Mr. Olson, second by Mr. Peters to approve. Any further?
Excuse me.
Mr. Howie, thank you.
Yep.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Now that'll go to the full board?
Yes.
Thank you.
And then the second part of that is they're paying us $500 for that easement.
Just put it right towards weed whacker line.
I did get asked about the laminate. They have to do one part, but
So there's a second part, which is number 3, compensation for the worksheet of the courthouse is they're gonna pay us $500, you said? $500 for the easement. Thoughts of the committee? Motion by Mr. Olson,
Second. If needed.
yes, there's need of a second. So I don't know. Who made the second, please?
That was Mr. Helwig again.
Thank you, Mr. Helwig. Motion by Mr. Olson, second by Mr. Helwig to approve. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Letter B, Oasis building update.
okay, so far, we do have Veteran Services has been operating out of there for a number of weeks now, so they're set up down there. We're still working on, we just started yesterday, I finally started getting some mock-ups on some potential signage down there. And then now, we had kind of shifted back up here to get to work on getting the SWAT garage moved over. So that delayed us on Oasis a little bit. Plus, we've been kind of having some staffing challenges on and off for quite a while here with people out sick and then whatnot. Nothing, and then surgery, stuff like that. Nothing work related at all, but So now we're starting today, we're back getting lighting work done down there to get ADRC, and then I talked to Paul Verhoeven today. I asked, we have a bunch of data lines we have to run and everything, because we're basically converting what was bedrooms originally into offices now, so we have to get data lines, better lighting. And I did ask them if they wanted to speed this up and try to move in as soon as we had the offices ready, or if they want all those secure walls in and everything so that they're just like they are at the upstairs HHS behind punch code doors. And Paul said they don't want to move in until they have big conference room done and the walls separating them from the waiting areas. So it's tough to get a timeline on that because we're building maintenance first, and but as time allows, we'll make sure we're making pretty good progress down there. But I'd hate to put a timeline on. If somebody held my feet to the fire, I'd like to say hopefully sometime like June, have them down there. If we get more time, it'll be faster than that. But I just throw out there far enough to not have everybody come back and go. Like you said, would be in May.
Keep us posted, do the best you can do.
Yep.
Anything else you want to share? Yeah, do they have a date yet that when they take the veterans building down?
Not that I have heard.
No, they, some of it's getting held up on utilities. I did talk to Gary Elliott. He's got a few things left in there that he's not sure what he's going to do with, so it's going to get moved down to Oasis and just kind of stored, because a lot of it is getting sorted out. Nobody's used some of the stuff that people drop off for a lot of years, so it's not anything like files or anything left. I think we have Mike, I think the computer stuff still in there that we have to work on getting moved out. Natural gas should be first week of May coming up. They'll be abandoning that, and then it'll disrupt the jail for a little while because they're gonna put new service into the jail at the same time and do some stuff with the courthouse, and then the electrical reroute should be, they're hoping sometime in May as well. Probably not as fast as what we would like to have seen on the electrical relocate, but Myron figures they have things they could start ahead of that relocated of that utility. So otherwise, like the building, the best building will go down with one. I found out today it'll be one of the first steps because it's going to be one of the things that's open first, just to get Thompson's into that work.
Good, thank you. Moving on. Number 7, Sawyer County Airport. Derek?
Good evening. First of all, any questions on my report? Oh, I got a few different things I'd like to discuss. First, I know that Mike and Carol and I met yesterday, and we're still working on hangar leases. Yes. So I think I can get that figured out. We're still working on some hangar leases. There's still some outstanding issues, and then Lynn's taking the initiative to try to get some documents kind of tuned up in advance. So we're in good shape in the future of hangar leases. So that's helpful. So that should be recognized. And then coming down the list, May 21st. So we'll meet again before this, but we do have a first responders day planned for out at the airport. Working with Nate. I know that Nate talked to public safety about it as well. The big thing is that we don't have any written plans at the airport for emergency response. A lot of small municipalities don't. That doesn't mean that we shouldn't. So we're working on it. In the last 2 years, there's been 4 aircraft accidents at the airport. Last year alone, there was 4 fatal aircraft accidents in the very near vicinity to us, just last year. So,
emergency numbers posted somewhere maybe.
oh yeah, it's the full, we're planning it, and Nate has a copy of it. He's kicked it around to a couple different agencies. It's a federal and state basically template for an emergency response plan. A written plan is 40 pages long. It's something that we're planning on bringing to committee for consideration and hopeful adoption, so we can put it on file. But, you know, this is about more than just that. It's about actually getting the folks, first responders out to the airport. We got a full day planned. We're gonna have about a dozen airplanes lined up, and a bunch of aircraft owners have volunteered their time and services to actually let some of the EMS guys crawl in and out of airplanes, try to get an idea as to what airplanes are like, the challenges about potentially extracting people from airplanes. We had a really bad crash out there last year. The guy was lucky that he didn't get hurt, you know. So need to make sure that everybody knows, you know, what the airport is, where it's at, some of the challenges. Even we're gonna take the opportunity to talk about, you know, hangars and how they're all close to each other, where the water sources are. Airplanes store lots of fuel on them, then they get stored in hangars. If there's ever fires, it's about discussing those types of things. So kind of excited about that. It's kind of a step forward, safety. Doing what we should be. The master plan, there's been two companies that have reached out to me already that have expressed interests and intentions of applying to the state for the master plan. And that's going to kind of come at a really good time, I think, for the county, with Mike, Tom being gone now, and Andy coming in, potentially having new members on this committee. That master plan process is a very lengthy, very in-depth process. And I think it's one of the best things that we can do at this time to start planning for the future. So Kaufman and SCH, the two companies that have expressed interest, they both have extensive experience doing master plans. And reading through some of the ones that they've done here recently, it's kind of interesting. They're very sophisticated. So met with Mike, or we talked about it a little bit. We should be by the end of the month receiving about $9,000 or $9,000 exactly from COVID relief funding. And we're also, by the end of the year, we're going to receive an additional $12,000 on top of that. The third round, I forget which one that is, Build Back Better, I can't remember. I had spent quite a bit of time talking with Tom Hoff. We did airport budget last year. I gave him a list of about 10 or 12 different things that I wanted to try to budget for at the airport. Some of them were safety improvements, things like signs, some changes to the terminal building. And when we were kind of putting the budget together, the emphasis was, well, we got this money that we know is coming. Let's plan on trying to use some of that money for these things. And we had it on the agenda, I think, a couple months, maybe 6 or 9 months ago. Talking with Mike, I still think that the things that I'd like to try to get budgeted for, done at the airport, still need to get done, but you know, budget season's not here for it right now, and we didn't budget for it, period. So we got the extra money coming in, and I think what Mike kind of directed me to do was to bring to this committee potentially, and that's going to change maybe with when Andy comes in, you know, some recommendations on how to spend that money. So but I think that's going to be a me and Andy thing to bring to committee in the future.
Good.
One of the big things is I'd like a Sawyer County Airport sign, not just on the terminal building, but a sign out in front of the airport too, because there's not one. And pretty much every other airport I've ever gone to has one. So little things. Coming down, scope for the project for the runway rehab has been submitted to the state. There's a lot of different parts to that, a lot of different things that we're going to try to accomplish. We had a scoping meeting down here at the courthouse. Tom and everybody else was invited. Link came as well too. One thing that's came up that might change the finances a little bit is the LED light retrofit for the taxiways. A couple hundred lights, and it's a couple $100 a light, but at the end of the day, it's only 5% to Sawyer County, but it still adds to the total of the project. So that could be another $5,000 or something like that to Sawyer County when it's all said and done. I don't know what the math is, but, yeah, that's all I know.
Questions for Derek? Letter B, airport boundary survey. Exhibit A. You got Randy here with you?
Yes, sir. I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. So the resolution is for approval of the airport exhibit, the Exhibit A airport property map. And basically that's a map that's required by the FAA. It shows all of the boundaries of the airport as well as a history and sort of an inventory of every parcel that's been purchased by the airport. And the map is included under item 3, I believe. And it's a very detailed map required by FAA, and this is an update. The airport has always had an Exhibit A, but this was updated as a result of the boundary survey that was done.
When was it updated, Randy, roughly?
Yeah, we just completed updating it. So it includes everything up to and including the purchase, or I should say the relocation of Airport Road, as well as utility easements. And there was an update for a parcel that the airport had an easement on about 6 miles north of the airport that was a electronic beacon that has been decommissioned. So we updated it to show that that's been decommissioned as well. So, yep.
Good.
So the map we're looking at right here is actually for informational purposes, but it's similar to the Exhibit A. This one is the airport boundary survey, and it's 6 pages in length, so it's very detailed, very comprehensive, and that is completed. This one is for informational purposes for the committee. And this is going to be filed. This is complete, but our next step is to file it at the county surveyor's office as a public document as a reference.
Okay, then it has to be approved here. Does it also go to the full board?
Yeah, so the Exhibit A map is the only map that goes before the board. And just one thing I'd point out is that under the resolution, I just happened to notice this as I was looking just before the meeting. Down at line 30, which is number 2, approval of easement. I think that must be a cut and paste thing. That should be approval of Exhibit A map. Not a big deal. We can, that can be tweaked out a little bit.
Good catch, Randy.
Yeah. So with that, I'd be glad to answer any questions. Really, the piece of business here, the approval is for the Exhibit A airport property map. And then
I would make a motion to approve the Exhibit A airport map sent to the county board with those corrections made.
Thank you. This motion by Mr. Howie to approve.
This is Ed Peters. I'll second that.
Thank you. Motion by Mr. Howie, second by Mr. Peters to approve.
Can we just, Randy, for clarification, when we look at the agenda, under B2, that's the informational map, is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, so then B3 and B4, are they
Yeah. So
different?
B3, yeah, good idea. Thanks. I'll clarify that. They're the same map. B3 has been signed and approved by the Bureau of Aeronautics. And number 4 was a draft of that same document. So number 4 can be disregarded. It's a draft version that was not approved. Number 3 is the one that actually goes with the resolution under number 1.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Yep.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries and forwarded on to the full board. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Mr. Olson, this is your last committee meeting with us.
That's why I did not vote on that, because I don't want to tie anybody into a decision of mine for my last meeting.
I just wanted to thank you for your time.
Thank you.
For the things that you've had to listen to about the airport for the last couple of years.
Used it, been there, went up with Harold Burton, which is the scariest thing in the world. Many times. We used the airport for wildlife damage when I was working. And our pilot was unique. Does that look like ice on the wings? You guys look for a tower around here. I don't want to smack into that tower. You know Harold. Yeah, so I'm glad we had it. Thank you, dear.
Thank you for your time.
Excuse me, did I hear somebody say that was his last meeting?
It is.
Mr. Olson, yes.
Okay, thanks. Thank you.
We'll go on to number 8. Thank
It's
you.
it's not anybody else's last meeting.
Might be all of ours. We don't know.
Well, yeah, Mr. Chairman. Thank you too, Mark. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks. And it's true. Good job.
Number 8, Highway Commissioners report. Thank you, Gary, for your patience.
Yeah, does anyone have any questions on the report? A couple highlights and additions. As far as additions, we have 2 employees that are retiring. We have interviews set up. Both of them are out of the same shop, Bradison shop. So we have interviews set up next Tuesday. We've got 5 candidates we're going to be interviewing for the 2 positions. So hopefully we get some new bodies on board. As far as report highlights, we had the we had the Vista, the chainsaw training today and yesterday. It was wonderful training for our crew. Last time we had it was probably 6-7 years ago. So it was a good refresher for our guys. Trainer was excellent. Very happy with that. Work zone safety awareness week is this week. Anyone view on social media, you may have seen something on Facebook. There was a poster that I put out there. Sheriff's Department got it out there for me and it got shared around quite a bit. It's just a poster with our crew on it and, you know, just saying, you know, signs are there to slow down for our crew. And then there should be an article, I think the paper came out today and I didn't look at either the Gazette or the Record, but there should be an article in each one of those about it too. And then the final thing is, the last paragraph there, we received notification on some funding that we got. This is pretty major stuff. I've been going after County Road E from Norris Road out to B for, well, probably 6 years now. This is the 3rd cycle, I believe. And we were 1 job away from the cut line last cycle. And this time we got it. So that's gonna be really good. And then we have 2 bridge deck replacements on County Road C, which is the bridge that we got to put the concrete barricades on, and County Road D outside of Exlin, east of Exlin. So those 2 will be going. Everything needs to be designed first. These projects are a couple years out. Yeah.
C is a couple years out.
Yeah, it has to be designed. We have to go through the approval process. So DOT's got to say, okay, yeah, they gave me the first notification. We got the funding. Then they'll set it up for charging. They'll say, okay, now you can go and do your solicitation for your design consultant. And then they'll have to approve that. And then we have the design consultant and they put it on. I mean, maybe there's a chance it's just a deck overlay. Maybe there's a chance we can get it next year.
It's quasi impassable right now.
Yeah, I just went over it this morning.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah. So that's the schedule on that. And E will probably be later than that because it's a roadway. It takes longer for roadways than a bridge. But a bridge takes a while, but not a bridge deck, you know.
You gonna straighten E out at all or just
No, we're gonna keep the same rustic appearance to it. It's gonna
Grand
be-
Prix?
Yeah, we're gonna leave that. We'll go for what they call an exception of standards because we don't have accident history out there. So we can get an exceptions because when you redo a road, you've got to build it up to current standards. We'll go for an exception through that. So we'll keep the curves and the hills. It's kind of one of our few roads like that County Road G that are kind of scenic roads in the county. yet. Yeah. Just a little commentary. Everyone's hearing about all this money that's coming, and the towns are getting this money, and the counties. I want to let you know that the towns had their distribution of their discretionary and supplemental funds. And we got 2 projects in Sawyer County. Town of Bass Lake got a discretionary, which is a 50-50. The town around Lake got the supplemental, which was supposed to be a 90-10. It was all said and done, it was 1/3, 2/3. So they got 67%. So when you hear people saying all this money you're getting, I don't know where the money's, I have a good idea where the money's going. I don't want to get political, but it didn't come here, and it didn't come to Washburn County. Washburn County got 1 project, and it was a discretionary. So, and there were a lot of applications, people applied for it and didn't get the money, so they're competitive funds. I mean, I'm Town of Hayward, I put in an application for Town of Hayward, we got nothing. So it's not all there. On the county level, we fared pretty well. You know, getting this project, we've got the 2 bridge deck overlays. I'm hoping to hear on County Road S, which I'm going through federal land access program for that. I should hear any day now on that. And then we did get discretionary supplemental in our regular funds. So we got about 522,000, I think I calculated, and those 3 projects for roadway projects. So we did okay there, but we had a different mechanism in place for distribution than the town that they set up for the towns. We just divvied it up for the counties. So there are 9 of us sitting around the table. We use the same formula for distribution that we use for our regular other programs based on population, licensing, lane miles. It's a really good formula we have. And so that's how we got our monies for that, or else we would have been in a similar, competitive grant process.
Yes.
Gary, have you seen any information on the infrastructure spending bill that the Feds signed last November that the state has now,
Yes.
and there's
Right.
some deadlines this year yet for people that have project
Right.
ready?
I'm gonna be putting in a project for County Road B, the urban portion.
Okay.
So that 1 mile of County Road B, the 4-lane, I'm gonna be putting in for that through it's BIL, bipartisan infrastructure law. Yeah, they had an early deadline, but that was for projects that were shelf ready.
Yeah.
That's some of your bigger counties that have excess money and they can have their projects engineered. They're literally I mean, there's a lot of counties,
Mhm.
not around this area, but there's a lot of counties, the larger counties, they have engineering staff. They literally have projects on shelf. So when this came about, they were able to apply for the funds. We unfortunately had to wait because ours have to be designed. So we're in round 2, we're gonna apply. That's, I think, a June 2nd or 3rd deadline. But yeah, I do plan to put a project in for that.
Other questions for Gary?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I do not have a question for Gary, but I wanted to mention this before he did leave, that Hal Helwig's funeral will be on the Tuesday, the 19th at 11 o'clock at the Stone Lake Lutheran Church. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Helwig. On behalf of the Public Works Committee, our condolences to you and your family, and hearing our thoughts and prayers.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I get a question. Gary, you probably heard this 20 times every day for the last 2 weeks. Any idea when the road bans are coming off?
I thought we were gonna make it through.
Maybe, I don't know, 3 weeks. It all depends. We need sun and we need wind and we need rain. We got rain today. We've had some wind. It's got to warm up a little bit. Yeah, we're probably looking at least a couple, 2-3 weeks.
So then that leads me to my second question. I always wondered, how do you determine what date the road bans come off? What do you do exactly?
Well, we've got frost tubes. We look at frost tubes But even when all the frost is out of the frost tubes, we still monitor the roadways for letting them firm up and everything. And you can tell driving around, you could tell just looking at them, you know, they'll bleed for a little bit. And then we also coordinate with the neighboring counties. So we don't create an island. So we'll coordinate. We do a lot of our coordination with Rusk and Price counties. I do take into consideration Washburn County, but they do have a little bit different soils over there. They've got a sandier soil. And I don't go up north either for comparison. I don't really care what Ashland Bayfield are doing.
Other questions for Gary? Gary, thank you for all you do out there. Much appreciated.
We got one more item.
Roundabout update.
Yeah, I do not have a roundabout update. I did receive some question from BIA a couple days ago. Apparently, my email that I sent last month or prior to last month's meeting got lost in the shuffle. They're still working from home up at BIA. So my email got lost. And so I went locally through LCO to make the contact up there, and then I got a response back. So Dina helped me out. And they wanted to know what we were looking at. And I said, well, we're looking for you guys to have an engineering staff to go out there and see if the roundabout will even fit in that area. So that's where we're at. So I don't have anything to say, any roundabout update.
So it wouldn't hurt to put on next month meeting, just to get an update where you're at.
If I'll have Lynn put it on next month if I don't hear anything, because sometimes things work pretty slow, and especially with them still working out of their homes. So it's quite possible I won't hear anything by next month.
Thank you. Number 10, Tower Alliance proposal.
Okay, in your packets, there is a proposal from Tower Alliance, who is negotiating on behalf of American Tower Corporation. They sent this proposal to the county's attorney, so that's why it's addressed to Andy Phillips. They must send these out every few years. The committee reviews them and determines if they want to continue the annual payments they're receiving for these towers, or do we want to take a lump sum of cash of some sort and kind of pay out the leases. I've had brief discussions with the attorneys on this. They just want to know before they put a lot of time into it, analyzing it. Is it something the committee is interested in? We want them to dig a little deeper into the numbers. I talked with numbers a little bit with them, and I'm in agreement kind of with the attorneys. It's like, there's a reason they're bringing you this proposal, and it's probably because in the long term, they come out better money-wise than the county. For example, this first, on the bottom of the first page, there's this Hayward rebuild, and they're offering a perpetual easement, which means they'll give us $245,000, and they can use this tower for as long as they want. And if they abandon it for 5 years, then it reverts back. But when you compare that to the $245,000, if you divide that by the annual payment we're getting now, which is $13,800, it kind of, the lease would only stretch out, or the equivalent of a lease is about 18 years. These are 50-year leases we get, so they pay us $245,000, but it really represents 18 years worth of payment, not the 50-year lease. So that's why they offer these up. It looks good to get that big lump sum payout, but in the long run. So like I said, before the attorneys spend a lot of time starting to analyze this, they just ask, are you interested? Do you want them to dig deeper or not?
Seems like just a couple, go ahead.
Yeah, you can go first.
Seems like just a couple, maybe a year ago,
yeah.
Rebecca dug into this a little bit, and I think they kind of pulled back at that time.
Did they?
is what I recall.
Yeah, I don't know what happened then. I wasn't part of that at that time.
Mr. Chair, that does sound familiar.
Thank you.
Also to me,
Okay. Mr. Olson,
So the county has an ordinance in the code of ordinances for mandatory co-location on towers. If we don't have the hammer to hold over these places with an annual lease, our co-location is much more difficult to require. I think it would behoove you guys to maintain the annual leases as opposed to selling out, just so you can still require the co-location.
thank you.
Well, I agree also that we continue with the yearly. It just looks like they're trying to pull one over on us.
Mike, do you have anything?
I'm in agreement with that, yeah. I wasn't aware of what Dale is referencing, but
So to answer the question, do we want them to spend money digging into it? I presume it sounds like presently no, but always keep us abreast if something changes.
yeah, and I assumed that's what we were doing previously.
So we have to take no action.
Mr. Chairman, this question.
Yes.
What is the budget in that? Is this a revenue stream for us? Or is this-
Yes, no, it's a revenue stream. So we get between these two towers, or maybe it's all on one tower, I'm not sure, but we get $21,000 a year in monthly payments.
That helps on the budget.
It helps, well,
Right.
yeah, it helps on the budget.
Right.
And 21,000 doesn't sound like a lot, you know, in an annual 1-year time frame. But when you start running these out 40, 50 years and comparing to what they're paying, you know, we're better off in the long run just staying with the lease.
Is it ever renegotiated then? The rate?
We reviewed it, I believe.
Yeah, but these are, like, this one is a 50-year lease and they're in year 32 right now. So I think, I've not seen the contract myself. I don't know if there's a increasing clause in there. I don't know.
I just want to say that I stand with the chair saying that there's nothing to do at this time.
Thank you. Yes, that's correct, yes. We'll move to number 12, future agenda items. And being that's future agenda items, and the Public Works was kind of oversees the land, you might say. I get a lot of conversation with people about this carbon credits for forestry, which I also know that comes up in forestry. And I also know that this is Mr. Olson's last meeting, but I want to really lean on him a little bit, if I may, and get his opinion, because his opinion is pretty important to me. He knows a lot about that kind of thing, perhaps. You would share, please?
Wow, where do you want me to start? You know, I had a nice discussion with Mr. Peterson, who has this county's best interest at heart after the last county board meeting. I was not impressed in that we only have really one place. It's a reputable place that's doing this. I think we all received, and when I say all, it should be public record. County board members, probably Lynn, did you get the anonymous letter? You didn't get it? Okay, county board members received a letter saying that allowing the county to sell these carbon credits is akin to polluting ourselves because we're giving carte blanche to large companies to pollute because they're the ones that buy the carbon credits. I disagree. So when we look at carbon sequestration and how it's it's handled. What these places are saying is, we're gonna buy up the credits because you guys only log so much. The carbon is staying in the trees and in the plants and in the ground because you're not cutting everything, you're only cutting a percentage. And I think our forestry department does a fantastic job. If you go out into our county forests, compared to our neighbors, and I won't say which ones, but other counties, they can go in and high grade all the timber out of a spot, and it looks like heck for a long time. We have beautiful managed forests. And does it sequester carbon? Yes. So how do you release that carbon into the atmosphere? You burn wood, you plow fields, you anytime you disturb anything in the landscape, you're allowing this carbon to go up into the atmosphere. Free carbon attaches itself in particles in the upper stratosphere, and that's where we get greenhouse gases from. Kind of simplified version. Great that we can get money for it. When we only have one bidder, that is worrisome to me. Is it going to be worth more in 2 years, in 5 years, in 100 years than what it is right now? We're selling that credit off right now. And maybe it's a good idea right now. You look around and you see the kind of the mindset of the United States in how we're handling electric vehicles and different environmental things with the Gen Xers and Gen Zers and all that stuff. I don't actually have a problem selling it. And I don't think you're gonna, what we're doing isn't promoting any company to go ahead and pollute. So the United States as a whole is as squeaky clean as we can be. Go to India sometime, go to China sometime, and then come back home and appreciate what we have. So is selling our carbon credits the best idea? I'm not sure it's the most fiscally responsible we can be, but at the same time, yeah, it's, you know, Greg did a good job and he worked for these companies. I don't have any problem with that.
Thank you for sharing. Number 13, correspondence reports, conferences, meetings, other matters for discussion only. Anybody have anything to that? Yes.
I meant to
Yep.
mention this during the new building. There's talk about scheduling a groundbreaking ceremony. Have you seen those emails?
No, I have not, but he told me he would get them to me and I haven't seen nothing.
Okay, so there's not a date set yet, but they're talking about in mid-May. They want to know, one, are we interested in having a groundbreaking? And I assume we were. And so we're looking at mid-May for that. And they want to schedule that soon because whoever they assign it to, it takes them some time to get this all set up.
Maybe
Paint
we-
the shovels.
Pardon?
They gotta paint the shovels.
Yeah.
Maybe
Make the cookies.
Maybe a suggestion would be to have it the same way we have the public works meeting. Just meet 5 o'clock, 5:30 something, perhaps.
Because it's my last meeting. If you're gonna have somebody do it, have them all do it, not
Right.
just the public works committee.
Oh,
Yeah.
the whole board.
Say that,
Yeah.
Maybe we have it before a county board meeting in May,
Good suggestion.
whatever works.
Yep.
So maybe the night of the county board. Okay. Mr. Olson, I'd like to thank you for serving on Public Works and the Coconut Board. You're a real
Thanks, sir.
asset, and I much appreciate it. Thank you. Meeting adjourned.